What's going on, everybody? Thanks so much for joining us for today. Welcome to the Market Makers Interview Podcast. Today's guest is, I screwed this up before. It's Kirk Simon from the Kirk Simon Team and eXp Realty. Drop the S. I'm sorry about that, Kirk. I need an apology. Sometimes I don't know, maybe I'm reading wrong or whatnot. But Kirk, you're in Malvern. Is that right? Malvern, PA?
Malvern's awesome. Where I live. That's where I'm sitting right now.
Awesome.
Been in the area pretty much my whole life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I always like to start these things by kind of doing an introduction on you and, your background, how you got into real estate, what you've been doing. And let's start there. Just tell us about you.
So it's pretty straightforward, guy. How I got into real estate was when I was 23, 24. My parents were always involved in real estate, not selling it, but investing in it. When I was 23, and for the older group, they might get this joke, but my parents basically said, "You can't live here anymore, Cato." And so, no reference to Cato Kalin,
That's right.
The guy living in the house. So they actually sent me a real estate agent, said, show up Wednesday night, 5:30. Don't be late. We found 3 houses you can afford. We're seeing a real estate agent. Don't waste your time. You can buy one of those houses. We'll make sure everything goes good. We'll help you out, whatever you need. Make sure you get there. And otherwise, just sign a lease by Friday. Can't live here anymore.
That's great. Hey, they were looking out for you, I'm sure.
It was 2 weeks after September 11th.
Oh, wow.
And at the time I was kind of in military contracting in a way. And so I said, Mom, this is a pretty dicey time, Mom. Well, the world only ends once. I don't think it's going to be this time.
I'm stealing that line, by the way. Nice one.
It's true, right? Like, it's true. So within a couple of years, it's funny, as I met my wife, they say when you buy your house, you kind of like put your root down, right? And I met my wife. She just happened to buy a condo across the parking lot. She loves it when I tell this story because I met her at the dumpster.
Oh, wow.
We had to throw our trash out. So in these condos in Westchester. And, I'm still married to her today. We're married and got a couple of kids, couple of dogs. And, we started buying real estate, and I was really unhappy with my technical sales job. And I was going to buy a book of business. There were like 4 Allstates for sale. And I thought, maybe I'll just try to sell real estate first. And if it doesn't work out, then, I'll give it a year, and then I'll go buy that. There were a few for sale at the time. And then I just, I decided to start that journey, and it went well. I think I sold 12 or 14 houses the first year, and got myself involved with some good people. I mean, I had a sales background. I could tell you about the 1990 market because I was 12, but my parents were involved in real estate at the time, still are, as investors. So then we started, we were investing, and then I started selling real estate, and then just went from there. And eventually I built out a couple of teams, one in Florida that's not there anymore. I was a coach for top performing real estate agents across the country. I worked with Tom Ferry for a while. And here I am 20 years later. I own a mortgage company as well. It's a very small brokerage. I don't write the loans, but I own it. And so now I just have super small team, and 20 years in, and it's just, actually before I started the technical sales job, which was kind of in the government contracting, I spent a small time running commercial lumber yards for a big company. So basically for 25 years after college, I've been in this business in some form or fashion. So it's now become, at 47, it's become my whole career, my whole life.
Yeah. So. Well, okay. I want to take this back to the point where you start getting into the business. I have talked to a lot of agents over the years, right? And daily interaction and through this show. And I'll tell you what, 12 to 14 units in the first year, that's pretty great. That's pretty fantastic, in fact. You find a lot of agents, like they go and get their feet wet, and it takes them 6 months to really kind of figure out the business, and they might end up with 1 or 2 sales in the first year, and maybe year 2 might be 30. But that first year it's treacherous. It's tough.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that success to? I mean, do you think it was your background, and did you have some connections through your parents, or you just?
So my parents have 2 friends. They're each other.
Mhm.
And here's the thing: I was raised by an accountant and an engineer, right? So, like there's no deck here. There's no deck that's stacked up for me, right?
Yeah.
In fact, all of my clients are real. Like I always say, like I have the smartest clients around because I have accountants, engineers, business people. I have all the clients that a lot of us can't deal with. So I think that's partial to it, right? I had sales experience in that technical sales role. So I had to like spec out parts and equipment and things that are really boring. And, banging the phones, like calling hospitals, military bases and stuff. So I did inside sales, and I always had 3 lines going. But I got involved with some successful people at the time. I got myself inside a good organization at the time that had a lot of, like, our lowest producing agents were doing, a dozen deals a year. And we're talking 2005 here too, so, I went right through the financial crisis. But I mean, I did open houses. I built a little farm. I used to knock on doors in the rain, praying that people would open them for me, in my farm. I mean, I would walk around. I wore a suit every day. I still wear a suit quite a bit, not as much as I used to. And I built my sphere of influence. I think my first sale was my insurance agent who was trying to help me buy an insurance business.
Yeah.
She bought one. When her dad retired, he sold out and she bought her own. So I did a deal with her. I did a deal at an open house that I was doing for other agents. And, we had something, it was an online site. I'm not sure if it's even around anymore. It was called Realty Times. Just go on there and read like all this kind of free stuff. I mean, today's version of that would be like a podcast or something.
Sure.
And they would have an article on there by a coach or somebody selling some kind of product. And they'd be like, this is what you do with this. And if you like more information, click here and we'll sell you some stuff. So I just read every like article. What else did I do?
You just worked. You just worked.
Like I built it without a network of people, without a network of, friends. I didn't get to the end of the first year and run out of cousins, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I didn't have those. So there was no real advantage other than just kind of like being a sponge and then like getting associated with the right people and actually like, and then of course just doing like we did, I don't know, 4 or 5 deals with agents before I became an agent. So I understood the consumer notice. I mean, as silly as that sounds, right?
Yeah.
I understood what was going on. So that was helpful. I had sales experience. That was helpful. I'm not afraid to talk to people. And my looks didn't really hurt.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I haven't sold anything because people don't want to hang out with me because I'm good looking. But my mom
That's so funny.
My mom tells me I'm good looking. But there was really it's really like work, man. Just like do a little this, do a little that, look for some opportunities. And I took over my neighborhood.
You said something a second ago, whatever, about people that normally agents don't want to deal with, accountants and engineers. Is that because of their analytical nature and they're hard to please?
That's what
I'm guessing.
What some real estate agents tell you. Not that they don't want to deal with them. It's just that it's.
I get it. Yeah.
It's a high. My clients expect me to know what's going on in the marketplace. They want numbers, they want analysis, and where I'm a pretty, I'm actually a pretty boring guy, but in those circles, I'm like life of the party guy. But in life of the party circles, I'm the boring guy.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
it's just what it is.
Yeah.
I worked with a marketing guy, a really good friend of mine, Drew, and we went through those 200 and some online reviews, and we just did this a couple months ago. We assigned a disc profile off the people. I went through every single person that gave me one of those reviews. We put them on the disc profile. We put out their job, like, hey, what did that guy or that lady do for a living? And then we read the reviews.
I'm going to pause you here. And if you don't know, a disc profile is a personality test that breaks down different personality traits to see your strengths and weaknesses, and the way that you like to be communicated with and things like that. Holy mackerel, that's some high level business stuff. That's really great. That's really great, Kirk.
I have a business degree. I actually have almost a full second degree in philosophy, which is a mind-body problem. So I studied this weird stuff all the way from, are we a pawn of an evil genius? This taught me how to think, right?
Yeah.
Are we a mind? Are we a body? But we took that all the way through when I did this in college. It's really interesting to me because I'm, again, not very interesting, but we took it all the way through to case studies and stuff that were in the Supreme Court talking about taking people off of ventilators and things. And we learned how to deal with, I actually could have got a job helping people make those very difficult decisions with relatives and stuff. Advanced directives. I was an expert on advanced directives. I have 0 advanced directives right now. I was an expert 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's not funny. You should have advanced directives. But no, that's what I learned. And you know what? That probably taught me a lot because I can help people think out things and draw value curves with them, which is kind of get at how they think, how they operate, and what they value. Not psychology, but more philosophy and so I think that when I look back on that, those logic and ethics classes, I think did more for me than some of those accounting classes I had.
Sure.
And ethics in the terms of very classical version of the word ethics is not right or wrong. It's ethics. It means kind of how to think. That term, if you want to look that up. So super boring stuff. But I think those are, picking up the phone, wanting to talk to people, putting in the work, looking at the strategies that you can gain business, doing everything. I had a mentor. I called people out of the newspaper for sale by owners. I had a mentor agent that was supposed to help me. I booked a for sale by owner appointment, and he was supposed to bring all the stuff and take it home for me and show me how it's done. He didn't show up.
What?
I called my broker. I said, what am I going to do? He said, Kirk, you got to go in the house. I went in the house. That lady was so angry. I had nothing. I had this. I had my suit.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't have the glasses, but I had the suit. That was it. I didn't have anything.
Well, tell me this. Did she shoot you or just yell at you? And that
she was
the worst it got.
Dismissive. You know what I mean? I asked her a bunch of questions. What are you thinking? What are you doing? And she's like, do you even know what, she just, she went right through me. Which is fine. So
I think people get this thought in their head in situations like that. They're going to beat me up. I'm going to feel like the smallest, whatever. And in reality, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, that happened 25 years or 20 years ago. And you know what? You probably wish it happened a little bit differently. But
I will never forget it. I can't remember the address. I think I remember the neighborhood, but I could see that lady's face, and she was she was not happy with me. So right. I didn't know anything about her builder. I didn't have a listing presentation. I didn't have paperwork. I didn't have anything. My guy Wes just didn't show up, but I went in there because I had an appointment, right? And I just talked to her, and I can't even remember if she actually listed. I mean, these are significant things, but when you rack it up, it's really insignificant.
Right. It's a blip on the radar.
It's another opportunity, another blown opportunity.
Yeah.
I should have known. I should have figured out how to do something for myself versus depending on this person. But, we went back to the office. We got rid of that person as my mentor. And then I went on my own. But it was my friend John who had, 5 or 10 years experience already from the office that I met. And he took me in the office and he said, "You don't need that guy. Look what happened." He said, "You don't need anything." He just said, "Just keep it moving and go for the next one." And he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that, but he did. And that was, I attribute a lot to it, of being around the right environment,
Well, and I think that plays a lot into successful people. The people that they end up surrounding themselves with and see as peers. You told me, when you were talking about getting started, you said, "But worst people in my office were doing 10 or 12 units a year." So, and I didn't see him. I'm kind of filling in the blanks here, but you probably didn't see yourself as the worst guy in the office. So you're going, "Man, I can't just do 10 or 12 units." And so you just expected it. And guess what? You put in the work to follow.
Yeah. Well, it's really strange. I'm all of 27 and I'm walking around and people would ask me different things and like, "What are you going to do?" And I literally told people, I was like, basically more or less told them I'm going to sell, 12 to 14, 15 homes this year, or I'm not going to come back next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like the operations lady of the firm told the owner that I wasn't going to sell anything and I wasn't going to make it. And I used to remind her of that all the time when I found out about that a few years later, because I actually became, second or third guy at the firm pretty quickly. The guys ahead of me were, 10, 15 years older than me at least, and in the business. So unfortunately she passed, but that just became like that became something that I would remind her of regularly. But in the deal.
Well, and you know what though, that's like one of those small wins that, it's like the small trophy that doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but it means something to you.
Well, that lady Sue was just a wonderful, wonderful person, and just to have her respect was a big deal to me. So
that's great.
So it was not an adversarial thing at all. It was just a joke of like, "Yeah, you thought I wouldn't make it. Here's the next 5 deals."
So the world only ends once, and you went through it, right? You went through it in 2008. You didn't knock you off. We survived, even though it didn't look like we were gonna. And I got into real estate probably about the same time you did. I mean, a year later, probably. Yeah. But here we are, 15 years later, and we're looking at, well, maybe not 15, maybe 12 years later when COVID hits, and it seems like the world's ending twice in a generation, and for you.
I mean, COVID was insane. So COVID came in. I was running my team with my partner down in Florida. I happened to be at my Florida house at the time, which I'm not there anymore. So we actually left our Florida property during COVID. So it's an interesting story, but I won't tell you that story. But here's the thing. I'm there. I have 62 agents that I'm coaching for Tom Fair. It's one of his. So I have 62 agents. I have a call, and I'm a markets guy. I follow the markets. And Sunday, I think it was Sunday, April 1st. I want to say, we could Google it. Treasury, I'm like paying my bills, looking at CNBC on my computer, and I see that they dumped $700 billion into the market. And I'm sitting there and I go, $700 billion. And I said to my wife, and it was not Congress, the president did it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall this. It was a Sunday night at 6:30, and they do that stuff on purpose. Well, many people don't remember that Hank Paulson asked for the bazooka.
Right.
He asked for the bazooka, and they said, "What do you want?" And he said an unlimited number, and they said, "Screw you." And then they had the famous picture of him on the knee with Nancy Pelosi. Not to get political, I'm just talking about the history of this.
Yeah.
And saying, "Hey, like, I need something here. We got to do something." Because remember, we had this whole conversation about being socialist and pumping money in and all that. And we didn't have that conversation. So I called down to my wife because I was in the loft, and I said, $700 billion, this is real.
Right.
That this is real.
Yeah.
And I actually have a couple of relatives buried on top of each other in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
on the Spanish flu. So got on the phone with my mom and we're talking about all this. And I'm like, this is real. So I took 62 agents through COVID. And
Wow.
it was intense through everything. And then the reason I don't do that anymore is that was so intense because within a couple of years I stopped doing it because it was so intense. So, but it's one of the proudest achievements I had in my life. I had, 62 people that I was kind of ushering through that under Tom's leadership. So,
Wow.
yeah. So COVID comes and so I put this hour-long call on for all these agents. Get on this call. We're going to do a group call because we're already doing Zoom stuff. We didn't need to learn Zoom. We were already doing this stuff Zoom. And everybody was kind of like, even the folks that weren't really engaged on a regular basis, all of a sudden were like this.
Yeah. Right.
And I said to him, here's what I know. I said, I don't know about this, but I know about my family history. I said, this is probably 2 years. All the nonsense aside, whatever you believe, this is what if you want to hear what I'm saying, this is what I'm saying.
Yep.
And he said, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, look, I bought my first house 2 weeks after September 11th. The world didn't end. I went through the financial crisis.
Yeah.
The world didn't end. Our financial crisis plan was to stay in the house we were living in as long as we could if we couldn't pay for it. And then we would move to one of our other houses. If we couldn't pay for that, we try and move to another one. So at the time we had, 4 or 5 houses or something. And my wife said, what's our plan? And that was my plan. I said, if we get kicked out of here, we'll go here. We get kicked out of there, we'll go there. So my neighbor said to me, she goes, aren't you nervous with the houses? I said, well, you only have one. I said, I'm better off. That sounds, it's kind of, it's funny, but it's not funny. But you know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's what we did. We really leaned on that thing. We were going, well, look, we're just going to go forward. We're going to go forward, and we're gonna stay safe, whatever that means to you. We're going to protect the clients. We're going to help people out, and we're going to see what happens. That was it.
Yeah.
And that was it. So it's important though, because when you put your focus on other people in times of personal crisis, you can take your head off of what you're going through and you can help somebody. And in the process of helping as many people as you can help with whatever you can do for them, it's just the world, the universe, God, whatever you believe, will deliver for you. And I just believe that. And, I haven't been successful my entire life. I've had some struggles too.
Sure.
Certainly COVID. I mean, COVID was a big deal for me. I folded a team in Florida. I left the house down there. I donated a house full of furniture to charity. I, escaped in the minivan back to my Malvern house. I built the same house. They were still building in my neighborhood up here. I built the same house again for more money, literally the same floor plan.
Yeah.
Mom walked in. She goes, this looks like the old house. I'm like, Mom, it's the freaking same house. Look out the window. You can see the other one.
Right. That's funny. That's
it
funny.
Wasn't perfect, but we got through it, right? We got through it. And then all the money came. We all did well, right? We should have, at least my people did. And then next thing you know, we've got cascading interest rate rises that are just coming like there's no tomorrow. And it caught everybody, right? And what did we do? We didn't listen to what they were saying. They said, we're gonna ramp this. We're gonna rise. We're gonna raise the rates. We're gonna raise the rates till there's some pain. And somehow that was surprising, because everything changes slowly and then all at once, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, so here we are again. People are saying the world is coming to an end here.
Yeah. Right. The third time in 20 years.
I mean, for the love of God, take me out now. How many times are we gonna do this?
I think it's true that things never happen as fast as you think they're going to, right?
Yeah.
You never just drop off the edge. Even in 2008, it took a year or two before the
Yeah.
market hit bottom. And
Yeah.
I think now we're looking at a situation where this is kind of a unique problem that we're at in the real estate market. We got 15 million, a demand for 15 million more houses than exist
Yeah.
across the country.
Probably
And
4 or 5. Yeah. Yeah.
what I mean, that if you believe some of the, some of what the pundits say or whatever, but
Sure.
okay, so even 4 or 5 million, you're talking about a lot of building, and it creates a big problem. Pennsylvania, Malvern's an
Malvern's
area where you can build at least.
no,
I mean,
you can't. No, you
well,
can't.
it doesn't make sense. The numbers don't play out.
Look, so I have this unique perspective on this.
Okay, yeah,
From
please.
89 building when commercial lumber yards, we were just, we were dealing with Pulte, the Toll Brothers, etc. Right.
Yep.
So if you go all the way back, and the truly nerdy people that watch this will like this, but you go all the way back to Lou Ranieri. Okay. He invented the mortgage-backed security. Okay. And that was putting all the mortgages together.
Yep.
So if you look at this, and this is a crazy opinion, call me tin hat, whatever you want, but this is 25 years of just being in this industry and talking to my parents about the savings and loan crisis when I was like 11 years old. So there's a lot here. Wall Street got the paper. They gambled with the paper. They messed it up. Lou Ranieri invents that. The mortgage no longer comes out of the depositors and out of the safe at the bank. Right. Wall Street gets the paper. Wall Street started buying the houses now. Okay.
Yeah.
Wall Street and all these forces that are going on in the industry right now, and I have to be careful how I say this, but I just believe that they're handing them the transaction. Okay.
Sure.
You overlap that. If we're talking about our area now, if you believe that, okay, that's not too crazy, but when you put this all together, it may sound crazy. I'm just going to tell you. You overlay that with the big builder, okay? Because remember, in the financial crisis, Toll Brothers were sending out flyers saying we're a publicly traded company. And it kind of made me laugh because they were trying to show their strength, right? I had a client that was ring fencing certain builders. I won't bring up their names. At that time, he worked for Wachovia. So I'm seeing this. Right. And the builders are now so sophisticated and so much money, right? They have it down to designing the plans based on cuts of lumber. I mean, it's nuts if you really look at some of this stuff. They have the Wall Street money. You throw on the environmental and all the costs, you throw on inflation.
Yeah.
Can't build anything unless you're big anymore. Then you throw in Chester County, where 30% of it is built up, or 40% is built up. 30% is protected by things such as 319, natural lands, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not saying any of this is good or bad. I'm just saying this is what I'm observing and overlaying it all.
Sure.
And you see the jobs come backing up to 202, where nobody would have bought that ground 15 years ago. And you see a couple hundred homes. You also see, again, not good or bad, but you also see the whole thing of like, there's a lot of pressure from people. There's a save the farm sign on every corner, right? Which, again, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, that doesn't help, right? We have a 30-year building boom. We have the wealthiest county, right? We have COVID. We get people coming down from New York and Boston and up from Virginia, as we always do. And when they come here, they laugh because they feel like it's so cheap. But yet our incomes kind of are darn near close, not New York City, but Northern Jersey, Northern Virginia. You could make money doing things, right? Working for any of these companies, very diverse companies, right? We have a lot of different companies here.
Yeah.
And you could make that money, but we never had to pay those real estate prices. And then you see the apartments that they're building. And when you see them build them so high, they get a little taller now. So when you overlay all of this, and maybe it doesn't sound crazy, but now the builders are also so sophisticated. A piece I want to say about that is they now have their supply chain so worked out in their business where they can turn on and turn off supply. We no longer have 3 small builders going bankrupt, sitting on 4 spec homes each around the same town, which would
Sure.
drive prices down. So they can turn it on and turn it off. And so it's become a very sophisticated market. It's become a market where everything you have to build is expensive due to inflation, environmental, etc. Right? And it's become, and the scale of having to build a couple hundred homes or you can't make any money. So you throw that all together with land scarcity, etc. And then Chester County, you go, well, where's the other 30%? A lot of it's below Downingtown and there's no infrastructure there. So you move down that 322 corridor. Now you're 20 minutes to get some bread. You know what I mean?
Well, this is kind of where I was going with this. It's like you almost have to be in this special window where the property values are high enough that it justifies building, but not so high that the land cost is going to drive out and the regulatory costs and all of the other ancillary costs are so high that it's going to make it too expensive for a buyer. Yeah.
Right. So now there's a lot of Walmart building, right?
Yeah, sure.
But there's no Walmart price.
Right.
So, and then you layer on everything else that's going on in the industry and you go, well, okay, how are the new entrants going to make it? Right.
Yeah.
But then you also say, look, I mean, I bought my first place under the gun from my parents with a little money, and I saved $1,800 between when I purchased and when I closed, right? Out of my paycheck, I was banging phones trying to make some commission dollars, right?
Yeah.
Not going anywhere, just holding on for dear life, moving in with a twin bed and the dresser from when I was a baby and like having to go to Home Depot and put in floors myself and paint myself and work on the place for a month after work to get in. That was how I did it. So there has to be some sacrifice. We also I looked back on this. I really thought about this because it's really popular to say like the boomers are like ruining my house. I'm not going to get a house now.
It's baloney.
It is it's true, but in the numbers, but it's a little bit overblown. Let's say that.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you look at this and you go, okay, well, of all these years selling real estate, right? I look back and my mom had a friend. They saved for 20 years to buy a house. 20 years. Okay. Yep. I sold a lot of houses to people where they each had an Audi and a student loan and a house because house prices were so cheap. So it looks like they went like this, but they really just kind of went like that because they got so cheap from the effects of all the funding business on Wall Street. So, I'm not optimistic for things to kind of unravel, but I'm not optimistic for the market we had for a good 10 years where people could get a lot of house pretty quickly.
Sure.
I have a theory that our money is not going to be much better than it was pre 9/11. Because that's when they started monkeying with the money.
Yeah.
And George Bush telling us all to go to Disney World. And none of this is political. This is just history, right?
It just happened. Yep.
Yeah, it just happened. So I don't care what anybody's politics are.
It's both sides of the aisle. Everybody's been messing with the money
I'm
supply.
just saying George Bush or Hank Paulson because those are just the people that were there.
Yep.
So, I mean, so that's like my theory in a nutshell is based on a lot of what I've seen and understanding. I understand building materials. I understand the mortgage market. I own a mortgage company. I've sold personally close to 700 homes.
Great.
I've devoted 25 years of my life to this, and I've been an investor. I know how to run residential landlording very, very well. So this has just been my life's work. And I look back on it and I go, well, I got hopefully another 25 years to do it, right? Because it's a lot of fun. And what am I going to see in the next 25 years? I'm going to see the big thing that people aren't talking about with the lockup is, and maybe this sounds morbid, but I mean, a lot of these folks that are older, they're going to stay in these houses a long time. Eventually, eventually
those houses are gonna become inventory.
they're going to become available. I mean, a mindset, yes. And modern health is fantastic. So we're not talking about my parents' parents. My parents are getting old, and
Listen, nobody lives forever. Like, come on, let's be honest. Like, yeah.
I think a couple of things are going to happen. I think the demand for the stuff, even if you overpay for a Chesterbrook condo, like 370 or something for a 2-bedroom, if they had to build that today, it would still be 550.
Right. So you're still getting a deal. Yeah.
I mean, the cost approach is not really relevant in residential real estate until today. Just like price per square foot is a terrible metric. But when I bought a home in 2007 off Pulte Homes, I was like, geez, they gave me all the options. Literally, they said signature standards. We'll give you all the options. And it was like $120 a foot. I said, how in the world am I buying a brand new 3,000 square foot single home for $430,000? And I'm getting granite and stainless steel appliances and tile and wood floors everywhere and upgraded carpet. Not a stitch of linoleum in the whole place.
Yep.
And it wasn't a custom home, but Pulte builds a decent home in my opinion.
Yeah.
Certainly in that era, so yeah, I think, it's funny is I tell the young people, I said, listen, you're in danger. You're in danger of not getting a home. I had 3 choices in 2 weeks after September 11th. And I bought that condo for what that lady paid for it in 91. And I still only had 3 choices. It was like, check out the 3 places you're going to buy or rent an apartment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I got on. I put my root down. I got a wife out of it. I got kids out of it. We had 2 condos when we were getting married. Great family,
Yeah. Well, okay.
Would it get any better?
I'm jumping on your bandwagon here.
Yeah.
So, I think two things are true. Number one, I think we've gotten into a very short. We've lost patience in general as a society, right?
100%.
You just look at this video. I mean, by the time there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this thing, but it'll be in 30 second to 1 minute clips, right?
Okay.
And then on the other side of that, so people don't have the patience to save 20 years to buy a house. It's like, well, I don't have the money now. This is the sky's falling. I would
say that was not a good business plan either. But
sure,
it's another extreme. It's the other side of the extreme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In addition, I think that the funny business with the dollar is going to continue. And I don't think that there's a way for it that it doesn't continue. And because of that, every dollar that you have outside of an asset investment is losing value. And the reason that these home prices are going up is not because the houses are necessarily becoming more valuable. It's because the dollar is becoming less valuable over time. And Absolutely. And so it's like, even if you have to buy a fixer upper and put in the floors yourself after work and, paint the place and, replace the windows and do the things that have to be done to it, at the end of the day, you're really just, that money is going into an asset that's going to increase in value over time because the dollar is going to decrease. Not necessarily because it's a parabola curve, in values, but.
Well, that's the thing, right? So you look at investment real estate, if you buy the right tranche, if you look at it as A, B, C, D, the smarter people were buying the B property, staying away from A because it's just too much loss, buying B properties, not buying C because C can quickly turn D, rarely turns B.
Yeah.
But if you buy B, then no matter what the market looks like, and this stops a lot of people from investing, they trade dollars at the beginning. They get a $1,500 payment and a $1,500 rent. But when you put 15 years behind that thing, you can watch that property double. When I started buying real estate in Phoenixville in 2005, even my mom, I felt like I was 2 years late because of my friends, people I knew, right? Again, around the right people. And a couple of things happened. My mom told me I would lose all my money. By the way. So that's how good that was. But my original mentor, one of my original mentors, he said to me, he said, Kirk, you need one for each kid. Every time you have a kid, you got to buy a house.
Mhm.
Okay. And he said, if you can get 4 and you can pay them off by the time you retire, you're going to get 25% of your tenant's income to pay you the rent. So you got to have 4. So you just have one normal everyday guy going to work for you when you can't or won't work anymore.
Mhm.
And he said, and if you want 2 guys, you just get 8.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
There was no sophistication. You didn't have to read a book. You just had to come up with 20% down, put the money in the dirt. The rent inflation took care of many, many things, and then the right
That is well, and it's such a beautiful equation because thinking about buying 8 houses, it's going to give some people watching this agita, right? Like there
100%.
8 houses, holy mackerel, that's a lot. But you don't do it over a year. I mean, you might in 25 years, but you're looking for 8 good deals over the course of 20 years. That's not too bad.
You don't even need a good deal. You just buy retail.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
You buy the right thing retail,
You're
you're
right.
fine. Hey, buying a house from the right rehabber is the best deal in the world.
I know.
You know what I mean? That guy's getting some money today, but he's not smart enough to hold the asset, but you need a little scratch.
I don't. I mean, this is a whole rabbit hole. But I had a long discussion a couple of weeks ago with a rehabber in Central, or I'm sorry, an agent in Central PA, and he did not have a positive view of rehabbers. And I think there is a huge cross section of quality control, and I think that, like you're saying, in those B class neighborhoods, you get better rehabbers because nobody, a lot of people can put together $50,000 to get into a low end flip and make some money and they go on. There's not a lot of people that can buy a B class neighborhood to flip because you got to have some cash and you got to know what you're doing a little bit.
Oh yeah, because the market's too perfect.
Right, exactly.
Or you got to take advantage of somebody.
Yeah, and nobody wants to do that. I mean, there's
there's legislation right now. They're gonna pass in the state, hopefully, or they're gonna say if you want to wholesale, get a license.
Yeah.
I mean,
I started wholesaling, and I think there's an ethical way to do things if you're straightforward with people.
Sure.
But I know what you're saying. Like we'll go. That's a whole other discussion. We could talk about something.
I met a guy this weekend who told me he paid a widow $20,000 for a 993, which is a old mid 90s Porsche. And I was like, yeah, you're going to make some money because you just ripped off a widow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just me. Right. That's just me. I don't want to do it. But once you get a license, then you got to play it a little differently. If you're going to follow the code of ethics and stuff, which we're going to do every time. Look, selling real estate and rehabbing real estate, in my opinion, is based on what I was taught is for tips. Okay. It's for tips. Owning real estate is where you want to be. Now, if you got to rehab and do I know this guy Thatch Nguyen out on the West Coast. He was flipping to start buying years and years ago. Now he owns like $100 million worth of homes, and he now just flips them to keep them. He just fixes them up and keeps them.
Yep.
But people will, smart flippers will maybe flip 1 or 2 and then take the pile of money and use it as a down payment to buy something and then just stop. Because what happens with the flips is we've seen it a number of times where you get to the 3rd or 4th deal and it wipes out anything you made on the 1st or 2nd.
I know.
Because when you reach for yield, it becomes a problem in all kinds of investments. So I don't know, but you're right. That is a rabbit hole. But
by the way, that's an interesting comment. I'm still on that line too. When you chase yield, it creates all kinds of problems, man. We're going to have it on here again. I mean, I'm holding you long here, so I apologize if I'm taking up too much of your time.
I got some personal stuff I need to deal with, but it's fun stuff. So I'm done. When I'm done with you, I'm done. I got a couple of little things to handle, but then I'm done. Well,
okay.
So the hotel I'm living in.
So, Kirk, would you rather be a seller's agent or a buyer's agent? I mean, what's your business model? And I know with the change in laws coming and stuff like that, maybe maybe that goes into play here too.
Here's the very first agent I ever had when I was 23 or whatever it was. Explained buyer agency to me with the consumer notice and said, you're going to hire me or you're not going to hire me. And that's how I've run my business. And still to this day, I go on appointments and I get people to sign that consumer notice. They go, the other agent didn't give this to me. And I go, well, listen, the other agent doesn't know the first thing about real estate because it says it right here. Real Estate Licensing Act requires it. It used to say substantive discussion at your first substantive discussion. Now it says at your first meeting or interview or something, because I guess they realized we were all realtors and substantive discussion was too vague, right? So point is, after this many years, and I don't have the team I used to have, you get to a point where there are things you do in this business. It's very ego based, right? There's an ego piece of this business, right? And you have to have some ego to be somewhat successful. I have an ego, but I don't do business things for ego. I don't care about trophies. I don't care about 10 people on my team anymore. I don't care about any of that stuff. So in the end, what I figured out was, and a lot of this is COVID, everything. My life changed after COVID. I changed things completely different. I'm not conferencing anymore, doing all that stuff. I'm not coaching all these agents. I have a few people that have called me up over the years that wouldn't take no for an answer. So I still do coach agents, but very, very few. And anyway, the point is I came up with some serious criteria. And that is, I want to work with you and for you only if you think I'm the best for you and only if you're a nice person. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. That's it. And then, obviously I don't do the city, right? And it's not because I don't like the city or anything. It's because I don't know the city, so it's a lot. I can go a lot of places. So at this point in my career, I'm not too stressed out about whether you're a buyer or a seller. But here's the important thing that enough agents don't understand after coaching hundreds of agents over the years. Your buyer today, that you go, oh, buyers are liars and all this nonsense. That buyer, the more money they have, the younger they are, and the higher up you think their trajectory is going to go, is the best client you're going to work with. Because if you do your job right and you stay in this business and you work, that client's going to come back to you looking like 2 more deals. But if you have that old crotchety guy or gal in that $1.2 million whatever, and they're going to the retirement home, right, do that deal, you're going to sell that house. You're not going to hear from that guy again.
Yeah.
You don't want to. So choose the nice people but also if you don't have enough deals, then maybe sometimes you do have to eat that,
Well, yeah, but it ends up being small pipeline syndrome. One of my partners right. It's like, if you have 1,000 leads coming in every single day, it's easy to pick and choose, but anyway, yeah. Sure. Kirk, it has been a real pleasure. I've kept you more than than you committed to, and I really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for watching today. If you want to get in touch with Kirk to list a home, or you'd like to buy a home, you can reach out to him at 484-880-2388. You can also check out his websites around malvern.com and kirksimon.com. Not Simmons. There's no S at the end. There's no S at the end. I'm really sorry. I got to pay better attention to detail.
All the time.
That's awesome.
It was fun. I mean, look, I have a lot of strong opinions.
That's great.
I don't think they're too crazy, but maybe some do. The beauty of life in this business is your people show up. When you work hard and you know what you're doing and you know who you're serving, your people show up.
Yeah.
And the people that aren't for you are good for somebody else. It's called chocolate and vanilla. There's all kinds of choices, right? Yeah. So in a market where you can hire anybody, don't just hire anybody.
You have so many great one-liners. I'm going to go through here and just write them down. And this is good stuff. That's awesome.
My wife does not appreciate them.
Oh, that's great.
So you're either very generous with your compliments, or you're one of my people.
No, listen, I like people that work hard and that see the success of their effort. And, it seems like you've done both, and that's really great. And I'm going to applaud you for your success. And, I'm going to hit up your mortgage company for some hard money business later on here. We'll talk about that, but
well, after hearing my talk about rehabbers and flippers, I don't know how much hard money I got.
No, I'm just kidding. But
we have a very vanilla, borrower, very straightforward borrower business where we keep things tight.
Yep.
And we do business with our W-2 engineers that have 700 credit scores, and we blow out the doors for them on pricing, and we take care of them at a high level like they're our grandma. That's awesome. That's all design. It's all by design, because we know who we want, and we know who we can serve the best.
Man, it really sounds like you're doing a fantastic job.
We're trying. We're trying.
Great. That's great.
But anyway, thanks for your time as well.
Thank you. And if anybody out there watching is looking for a hard money loan, give me a call. You can reach me at 717-213-8488 or check me out at hardmoneybankers.com. Until next time, we'll see you next week, and happy Independence Day as well. See you later. Thank you.